With all the subjects available, why would you paint some fruit on a table? Paul Cézanne's 1890 painting, Still Life, could be seen as merely an artistic exercise. Most artists working on their skills will spend at least some time on painting still life. From an artist's perspective, a still life subject has a few things going for it. It doesn't move. If you set up artificial lighting, even the shadows or light intensity won't change, and you don't have to pay modelling fees to an apple. Paul Cézanne, a post-impressionist, influenced modern art. He painted and exhibited with the Impressionists, but carved out his own path as he moved from classically rendered works like Spring in 1860 through to a painting of his father reading the paper with one of his own still lifes on the wall. Then his exciting landscapes, such as Bibemus Quarry, executed in a Cubist style before there was even such a thing. But it is his still lifes that hold a special place for many of us. He said, "The day is coming when a single carrot, freshly observed, will set off a revolution." And with these apples, maybe he has done just that. He intended this. "With an apple I will astonish Paris," he said. The apple's colours are vibrant. This doesn't just mean he chose or mixed a bright colour. It is his method of achieving the colour that makes the subject pop. First, there is the complementary red and green together, always a way of drawing attention and creating vibrancy. Then we have the brush strokes themselves. In the classical style, blending was undertaken on the palette and directly on the canvas. Gradations between colours were blended to look like life. For example, this face from Spring. While skillful and able to withstand a close inspection, some of the life seems to have leached out, at least to me. But not so here. The apple's colours are painted more in various planes rather than a carefully blended continuum. The yellow-orange is overlaid on the red with just a few unblended brush strokes, showing us not only the brushwork itself, but giving a lively, vibrant feeling to the apple. Why? I think it is because we're using more of our brain to understand the scene. His contemporaries, the critics particularly, hated it. It was seen as unfinished. You looked closely and it was just a mess. But we don't look closely at the real world, walking up to and inspecting each point within our field of vision. We often just see a scene and accept it. It is living, breathing, alive in our eyes, despite the fact that it is mostly filled in by our brains. I've spoken about this before, but let's dwell on this with this apple. Like everything we see, it is pieced together by our brain. In the real world, unless we closely inspect it, our brain just takes the visual cues and tells us there is an apple. Although it doesn't bear close attention, as a part of a scene, it is somehow more real. I know not everyone agrees with this, but for me, the more something is suggested rather than detailed, somehow the livelier it becomes. Our brain doing this extra work feels more lifelike. You can disagree with me in the comments if you like. As we look at the jug and plate, note in passing that these white objects are almost nowhere painted white. Because what is a ceramic white like this but just a collection of shadows and reflections? Now, what do you think about the composition? Have you noticed it yet? The table is given to us in two perspectives. There's the one on the right behind the plate, and there's the one on the left behind the loose fruit. Extend the lines from either side and you get this. This is not some beginner mistake. Cézanne has been painting for decades. On the left, our viewpoint is slightly lower down, pushing the edge of the table further back. On the right, we are a little higher up, looking into the plate and its lively fruit, bringing the far edge of the table a little bit closer. Cézanne is giving us the perspective he wanted to show for each part of his painting as our eyes moved around it. The jug hides the point of change. The jug's main purpose is to provide a strengthening vertical unifying the large planes of the painting. In the real world, as we move our gaze around three-dimensional objects we are looking at, our perspective does change. Maybe not this amount, but there it is. making our brain work just a little more, making it more lifelike at the expense of it being more correct. It's on purpose. Further, the table itself juts out from the wall at an odd angle, adding another slightly uneasy dimension. Cezanne said there are two things in the painter, the eye and the mind. Each of them should aid the other. This is revolutionary, not just the faithful reproduction, but the creation of art that triggers our mind in ways not fully understood. Yes, emotion, but also visual components of our mind's eye. Finally, we come to the background, with its beautiful play of light reflecting on the table and with the shadows of the fruit, placing the table's objects as part of a light-filled, vibrant space. The background is also full of life, using the same techniques as used with the apple. For representational artists, that is, people like me trying to paint how things actually are, we are being warned by this lively, still life. We are being warned about focusing too clearly on every object as we paint it. As Cezanne said, painting from nature is not copying the object, it is realising one's sensations. Well, that's it then. And you thought it was hard. That's all you need to do. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please press like. If you want to be notified when I put out more reactions to great art, please subscribe. See you next time.